on blast.
And we are live. Once again, Wrap It Up Podcast. My name is Sheldon Alexander. Joined with my man Foots. Foots, what's going on? How you doing, man?
What's going on? Shout out to all my people out there on Instagram, on all the social media platforms. We here.
We here. And you know what? The Raptors were here too. The Raptors are not here for the play though. The Raptors, another win. 124-111 in Utah. Second night of a back-to-back. Doesn't matter. No Kawhi Leonard. Doesn't matter. 124-111. Toronto Raptors improved to 10-1 on the season. Again, in real life, the Toronto Raptors are 10-1 on the season. I don't even know. This team, they put up challenges. You look at this road trip. This was not an easy road trip, right?
Not at all.
You had the Lakers, and then you had the second night of a back-to-back in Utah, one of the toughest places to play in the league. Raptors seemed unfazed, though, Foots.
I agree. I don't know. Honestly, I'm still in disbelief, Toronto. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I expected us to be maybe in 7-3, 6-4-ish, but 9-1,
10-1, 10-1.
Sorry, my bad. 10-1.
Let's go. Toronto Raptors are hype again. My name is Sheldon Alexander, and this is the Wrap It Up on Blast Raps post-game show. And shout out to all the people that already have joined in on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. If you want to join in, be a part of the conversation, hit us up there. See people filtering now. Add your comments, add your questions. We'll get to them for sure. And also shout out to the people watching the live stream of the entire podcast, because I feel bad for the Instagram people because they just have to look at my terrible face. But if you go to the actual normal feed on Twitter, which is at Shell Alexander, and you can click on that link. Once you get there, you'll see the video. If you click on that video, another window pops up, and that gets you into Periscope, and that's where on the side you'll see a chat bar where you can also join in and ask questions, make your comments. What did you think of the game? Who was the MVP of the game? Who was your X factor? Whoever you want to diss or shout out, let us know. But that's how you get in contact with the people here, myself and Foots doing the podcast. And of course, shout out to the people that will be listening to this tomorrow on their commute, because this isn't just about the live show. This becomes a podcast afterwards that you can find on iTunes, on SoundCloud.
Take us to work, please.
Right? I won't tell people. If you want to listen and watch on YouTube while you're at work, I won't tell on you. It's okay. It'll be our secret.
No snitching over here.
Right. So, again, the Toronto Raptors improved to 10-1 after a 124-111 win in Utah. No Kawhi Leonard. JV gets to start for Serge tonight. And I'm going to start there with that, Foots, because last night, Serge Ibaka had the game of his life.
Thank you. 34 points, 10 rebounds, and he doesn't start tonight?
How do you, what does that show you? Just the fact that the Raptors are able, as an organization, Nick Nurse, new coach, is able to say, hey, you just had a career night, but tonight, you know what? Because of the matchups, you're going to come off the bench. What does that tell you about what's going on with this team right now?
It was just like the conversation we had earlier on before we came online. It's an adjustment from Dwayne Casey in last year. Dwayne Casey would never make that adjustment. Serge, you had the game of your life. You know what? We're going to start you in the next game because we think that you're going to have the next game of your life again.
And you know what? I mean, Serge, he came off the bench. He still went 8 for 8, 17 points. He didn't miss a shot. Serge continues to cook. This whole Raptors team continues to cook.
You know what it is? It's a buy-in. The fact, you know what? It takes a bigger and a mature player to have a game of their life the night before and to come in and your coach tells you, hey, listen, because of matchups, he's buying in. And I appreciate that.
For sure. It shows a lot of growth. It shows buy-in from the top down, right? Because if you're one of the other guys at the end of that Raptors bench and you see Serge Ibaka have the game of his life and then accept, I'm going to come off the bench. You can't be Greg Monroe and complain about minutes. You can't be someone else on the team and complain about minutes.
That's it, right?
So what we're seeing from the Raptors, it's obviously been an amazing start to the season. And this game was super interesting to me because this had all the makings of being just a tough loss for the Raptors. Again, there's no Kawhi Leonard, and we'll touch on that in a bit. But the way that this game started, Utah got out to a 12-5 run. Then, to me, again, it was Kyle Lowry who changed things because it was an 8-0 run at the time for the Jazz in the first quarter. And what did Kyle Lowry do? dribble penetration, a little dump off to JV right in the paint, easy bucket. That got the Raptors kind of going, kind of slowed down the run, and then it just the whole game just flipped all of a sudden. Like it was crazy how this game went because it went from being a super slow down game to all of a sudden the Raptors just, oh yeah, we're on one. You guys don't even deserve to be on the same court as us. How did that happen?
You know what? One thing that I'm seeing, along with the nine straight games that Kyle Lowry's averaging 10 plus more assists,
Yeah.
is the fact that he's quarterbacking the games.
Yeah.
He's noticing that, hey, we don't have our best stuff maybe to start off the game. Let's slow it down here. Let's get JV some touches. Let's get some paint touches in there a little bit, right? So, and another point too. I've never seen Kyle Lowry pass the ball to JV as much times these last 6 to 7 games than he has the last 2 years of the Raptors. I'm just saying.
It's true. He had DeMar vision. He had DeMar vision.
He had DeMar vision.
Right before. It's just been a crazy thing. And as much as I want to give Kyle Lowry credit for what he did in terms of just balling the change and managing the game, Pascal Siakam,
Yes, sir.
he changed the game as well. Like he went on like a personal, like, I don't know what it was, 6-0 run at one point where he's just going full court.
Spin move, spin move after spin move after spin move dime. That's his move right there.
His game is just crazy. You're mentioning that like twisting weird layup that he had, and then he finds Serge. Serge hits a three as Serge continues to cook.
Confidence.
Timeout Jazz, and it was just one of those things where the bench came in, and at the same time, I don't know. Utah's a weird team. Like, I don't know who's gassing Joe Ingles and your boy Ricky Rubio, but those guys just kept shooting and shooting and shooting and missing and missing and missing. But the Raptors, again, Pascal Siakam has been doing it for how many games now in a row? 16 points tonight, 16 and 7, a plus 25. Like, this kid, you mentioned it, he is putting his stamp down on the most improved player award, no?
Yes, he is. I agree. And he's the most improved. Like, he is the most improved player in the NBA so far.
So far. It's early. 11 games in.
But he's improved his overall numbers, and he's improved his points per game by 4 points. That's huge,
So
especially for a guy that came off the bench but now has worked and earned a starting spot. And it shows the rest of the team, listen,
Exactly.
you can get starter minutes if you work hard and you progress. And he has.
And it's true, right? You picked up on what the question was in the postgame, right? The postgame was, it was Eric Smith doing the postgame interview. And he asked the question. He said he was talking to Nick Nurse, and Nick Nurse said he can't take Pascal out of the starting lineup now, right? He put him in, and he's just played so well since being there. You can't take him out. And that's a great point you just made. Again, the rest of the guys on the team, you're seeing that, hey, if I earn minutes, if I earn this time, I'm going to get a chance to shine. And Pascal is definitely running with it. And I have a question for you and also for the people, again, in Instagram and on Twitter, wherever. Feel free to jump in and answer. But I was asking a friend at work today this question, and I'd love to get your take. Have you seen, what's the last Raptor to make a leap like Pascal Siakam has made from last year to this year? Like, I was trying to think about that, and I don't have an answer. Who have we seen take a leap from one year to the next like this?
In recent memory,
Just period. Like, I don't remember something like this. I think maybe, like, if you go back all the way to T-Mac, when T-Mac was buried on the bench, and then at the end of one season, Butch finally gave him
put
some
in.
minutes, and
then he got a little playoff touch, and then the next year, yeah.
Like, recent time Raptors, 1 year to the next. Now, we saw it gradually from DeMar, right? DeMar would add a little something to his game each year, and he became a star. But I mean, from one year to the next,
I'm going to give you
Pascal's
a different mindset. I think it's, I would say maybe like it was out of force. Like Doug Christie. I think Doug Christie made it.
Ooh, Doug Christie.
I'm going
I
back
like
and
it.
I'm going back
I
in
like
the dinosaur bag.
I like it.
You know what I mean? I think Doug Christie. There was 1 year Doug Christie went from just a defender, strictly.
I know.
Don't even look at the hoop.
Yeah.
To a night scorer for the Raptors the next year, right?
It's interesting, yeah.
But I think but we needed that. That was like by accident.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Well, this is more confidence. These guys went into the summer. Him and Van Fleet specifically went into the summer working on in the game and working on with other all-stars, superstars. So when they got into the regular season, these guys ain't nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm confident enough I can play with them because I've already worked out with them over the summertime.
For sure.
Right?
I see Q in the chat. He says
Shout out
Antonio
Q.
Davis from when he went from the Pacers to the Raptors.
That's another.
It's interesting.
That's
but
interesting.
that's more based off like just getting more playing time, right? Because like Antonio Davis, if I'm not mistaken, was a bench guy in the Pacers and then became a starter when he was on the Raptors, but still a solid
By
leap.
accident, right?
Still a solid leap. This is just like crazy development. And I don't know what the ceiling is because he's just all over the court. It's all energy.
And I don't know if I want to give the Raptors that much credit in regards to player development. Like these guys went.
okay.
These guys went on their own. I seen these guys through Instagram go on their own. And were
Yeah.
working out in LA and working out with certain other guys.
The one thing I will say though about that, I don't know if it's talked about nearly enough because the stories were out there from last year. And now as you look back on it, it seems kind of odd when you look back in hindsight. But there were stories last year where Nick Nurse was a focal point of these stories as an assistant coach.
Yes,
Because
sir.
talked about how he spent not this past summer, but the summer before that, when he was the assistant, working with the bench mob and working on their game, working with this offense. Again, we talked about this on the podcast before, but they would play 5-on-5 or they would play half court, and there were special rules where you had to score basically in the paint or a 3-pointer. Mid-range shots were worth negative points, right? And so you just see the overall development and the skill set of their game, and a guy like Fred VanVleet, you can't keep him out of the paint. You can't. And it was great to see. We mentioned the great games that other guys had, but it was great to see Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby. Both of those two guys, they've kind of been out of the lineup due to injuries, obviously personal reasons for OG, but it was great to see those two guys get in the lineup and contribute.
No, and I agree. The OG especially because Nick Nurse's system is so simplified for OG. All he has to do realistically is defend and hit a wide open three.
Yeah. 17 points tonight for OG, 3 of 5 from three-point land, 7 of 13 overall. Solid performance from OG, and he obviously moved into the starting lineup with Kawhi Leonard not in the lineup tonight. And the Toronto Raptors, again, get it from Kyle Lowry. You mentioned, of course, he has the Raptors record now for most consecutive games with 10 or more assists. Lowry, 17 and 11 and 7 rebounds. Like, the numbers each and every night for Kyle Lowry are just there, but we're starting to see it consistently now from Kyle, Siakam,
And
Serge. It's almost becoming night in, night out. You just you tick those guys in, and you almost know what you're gonna get from those guys.
Right.
Is that weird? Is it weird, or should we just like accept
you know
it at
what?
this point?
I think we need to accept it, but it is kind of weird because I wasn't sure, especially with Serge and Kyle. Listen, they were sitting on a super hot seat.
Yeah.
So the fact that these guys came in here and there was a lot to make coming into the season. Remember, Kyle legitly, especially with Toronto media, he locked off Toronto media, sports media, I mean.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just one of those things that we didn't know what we're going to get from Kyle. And if this is what we're going to get from Kyle now, that we see this, man, we want more of it.
Yeah, Kyle Lowry has been just an absolute, like, and he's still Kyle, right? Like, even towards the end of the game where he finally checked out, he's arguing with the ref over a play, chirping the ref. And that's the Kyle you want to see because you know he's engaged. That chip on the shoulder Kyle Lowry is the best Kyle Lowry, right?
Especially for our team.
Especially for the Toronto Raptors. And again, just the way that this game went, the Raptors held the Jazz. The game really, I mean, it was kind of close at halftime. What was the score at halftime? I had it written down somewhere. I want to say it was pretty close at halftime. But at the end of the day, this game really got out of hand
close.
in the third quarter, right? So the Raptors held the Jazz to 18 points in the third quarter. Really, they outscored Utah 64-41 since the end of the first quarter and led by 22 heading into the fourth. The game was pretty much over then.
Yep.
This was one of those games, which I say happens all the time, where it becomes blatantly apparent at one point or another during the game that one team is just getting outclassed. And that was the Utah Jazz tonight. And again, to see what the Raptors are able to do without Kawhi Leonard, it's kind of scary. It really is scary, no?
We have rotations. Oh, it's definitely scary. We have rotations that can beat other teams without Kawhi. Like that's like to me, that's crazy.
So I'm gonna go to a comment on the Instagram here. Thomas says, "So many people
What's
were
up, Thomas?
hating." What up, Thomas? How you doing, man? So many people were hating on Kyle before the season started. Now they all love him. Back then, they didn't want me that
right?
hot. They all love.
I feel like that. I feel like that's the NBA.
That's life, right?
Especially and these guys. And you know what? These guys set it up like that too. They need that chip on their shoulder. They need something.
That Kyle Lowry Philly mentality, man. That
That's
chip on
it.
his shoulder. He's been living with that all his life, right? Like
Right? We need it.
that's the gift and the curse, right? That's what makes Kyle Lowry who
That's
he
it.
is. He doesn't get to this point in his career without that chip on his shoulder. And this guy has just been going crazy. It's been amazing to watch what he's doing. And another guy too, Serge Ibaka, I know he fouled out, but the fact that Serge finished 8 for 8 in 14 minutes, he's hit 27 of his last 29 shots.
That is
Again,
nuts.
he's hit 27 of his last 29 shots.
That means he's locked in. He's
Af-
engaged and he's locked in.
After we finished the pod last night, we had NBA TV up, and Serge started 14 of 14 last night, right? And on NBA TV, I think it was David Griffin who gave the stat. It was something to the effect of Serge was the first player to start a game 14 of 14 since Shaq on the Lakers.
Wow.
Right?
And we know that Serge ain't Shaq.
No,
Right?
But what Serge is doing right now is crazy. I cannot say a bad thing about Serge.
I will not.
I can't do it.
I can't do it.
And before it used to be the Serge would get the ball, and it's like, no.
Yeah.
I don't even do that anymore. I'm just like, you know what, Serge, get yours. If you take a bad shot here or there, I can't even be mad at you because you're balling.
And you know what? The dominance of our front court is coming into play. Look at between Siakam, Serge, and JV. They're averaging 7.5 rebounds. So you're telling me we're averaging 23 rebounds in the paint a night?
It's crazy.
That's dominance.
It's crazy what's going on with the Toronto Raptors right now. And again, you're getting it from everyone. This was a pretty good game, too, because Kyle Lowry's been working a pretty heavy workload. So for
Yes,
him
he
to
has.
only play 29 minutes in this game, that's pretty good because the second night of a back-to-back again.
He needs his rest.
Yeah, also a big part of this game, and I can't emphasize this enough because we know that this team, with or without Kawhi Leonard, the bench mob is a massive part of this team.
Yep.
And so Fred VanVleet tonight had his best game of this season so far. Freddie with 17 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, knocked down 2 threes. What did you make of Fred VanVleet, and overall, like how important is he to the overall operation of the Raps?
Freddie VanVleet is really, really important, but I felt like he hit timely shots today.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be his role going forward, especially in the playoffs. We're going to need him because we're going to need timely shots from him.
Yeah.
You know, when they start double teaming Kawhi, or they start double teaming Serge if he gets hot in the paint, those key timely shots. And I think Van Fleet has improved on hitting those timely shots. It's not, hey, I got to come down and make a play every time.
Yeah.
But he knows that, hey, when the ball gets reversed, it's being reversed for a reason.
Yeah.
I got to hit this.
And it's so crazy. We talk about the fact that when you watch last year's team, and no matter what, this Toronto Raptors team in season is going to continue to be compared to last year's team, right?
Of course.
And last year was the start of seeing how this new offense was going to work, but the evolution of it, right? The fact that it's now fully contagious from the entire lineup top down, buying into this ball movement. And, it sounds crazy, but the way that Freddie and Kyle are moving the ball is the same way that Serge and Siakam are moving the ball. Like we were commenting, Siakam, at least twice a night, it seems, this guy will have the ball on the break and he's diming Serge. Like, I mean, and when I say diming, I don't just mean like he's adding a little sauce to the pass too, right? You know what I'm saying?
A little ragu on that.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, Pascal, like where did this come from? I wrote down the evolution will be televised, and he is doing it big.
It's confidence. Like Siakam's confidence is at an all-time high. He's allowed to grab the ball off the board, push it up the floor, and if he doesn't have anything, hey, depending on who's defending him, I can make a move and make a play for my next big man that I'm playing alongside.
This is totally a good point coming up in the Instagram chat again. Equal opportunity offense. I think that's a great way to put it, right? Because everybody can make plays, everyone can make a shot, everyone can shoot or pass or whatever, and there's no. Sometimes when you would watch, and maybe this is the old NBA, and by old NBA, I'm only going back like 2 years.
Of course.
But you'd have situations where someone just shoots because they haven't shot the ball in a long time.
Yes.
You don't see that in this Raptors offense. Guys are so unselfish. We saw Siakam, as I mentioned, he had like a 6-0 run, and then himself had a 6-0 run, and then he came down the court, could have probably tried to take a tough lay-in, but instead dimed it to Serge. And that just shows to me the growth of just everyone, as you said, buying into the overall offense. I don't know who we call the MVP of tonight's game. The numbers are pretty even across the board, so I think I'm going to give it to Lowry, just because Lowry with the double-double again, 17, 11, and 7. That's a pretty solid night from Kyle Lowry.
Very solid.
Kyle doing it again, and I think why it's funny how things change within a week. Last week when I was talking with Webby, shouts out to the Ball on Blast podcast, shameless plug. But on that podcast with Webby where we talk more general NBA stuff, one of the questions we had regarding the Raptors was, is Kyle Lowry really the MVP of the Raptors? And at that point, it sounded a little bit crazy. But now that we've seen more games without Kawhi, more games with Kyle Lowry doing work, it's not that crazy, is it?
No, he is the most valuable player to our team.
Oh.
Because he's the glue guy. He keeps us together. He's running a tight ship. I'm not going to give all the credit to Nick Nurse at the end of the day because there has to be somebody on the floor doing the coaching.
Yeah.
And that is Kyle Lowry.
Kawhi
hasn't even played all the games.
It's true. As of now, Kyle Lowry's going for 18 and 11, 11.6 assists per game. You mentioned he's leading the league in assists.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to watch. The Raptors' style of basketball is fun to watch because they are all over the place. And someone today mentioned this to me, and I wish I could remember who it was so I could give them credit. Apologies, but they're basically talking about the fact that this Raptors team, all of the players that get minutes, can affect the game in multiple ways. It's not like, so even if they're not scoring and the shot's not going down,
they're still playing defense, they're rebounding, they're doing the small things.
Yes,
yeah.
and that's the beautiful part of it, right? Because no matter who it is, it's like you have to check the box score to see, oh, well, what did this guy do? Oh, what did that guy do? Because, Danny Green to me almost seems like he has the same game every night, but one time he'll have like 12 points, the next time he'll have like 7, but he still is playing defense, he's still hitting. Do you know
Define roles.
Yes.
Everybody has a defined role in the Raptors, and I think even the Raptors, the younger guys from last year, I think their role is still the same, but now they've just been more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
With their role.
It's another year of confidence. And again, I want to point out a fact from yesterday that was so important to me anyways. It stood out to me a lot. And it was before the game started. It was a pregame interview with Fred VanVleet. And they're talking about how, Raptors off to a 9-1 start or whatever. It's been a great start to the season. How does it feel that you're now getting back into the groove or whatever? And Fred was like, yeah, we need to all get back out there because, to be honest, despite our record, I don't really think we've played that well this season. And I thought, that is amazing, right? Like, that's what you want to see from your young gunners, in the sense that this is a guy who, bet on himself, had to scrap in the NBA, got his contract, got his bag, but is still like,
trying to improve.
Yeah.
There's still room for improvement.
Yes.
And that's the thing, too. If you look at it, we have 6 players averaging over 10 points a game, and the 7th would be VanVleet. He's averaging 9.5 points a game.
Yeah.
So when VanVleet says that now, it's, hey, we can get maybe 2 or 3 guys averaging above 10.
Yeah.
And if we have the starting lineup and the bench players averaging 10 points a game, listen, we're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, we're going to the NBA Finals. If you have your starting lineup and you have your bench, especially your bench averaging above 10 points a game, listen.
It's crazy right now. And I urge Raptors fans to pay attention to a couple other teams, right? And one of those teams to pay attention to and what they're doing is the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are for real. I know we tried to tell you that when the Bucks played the Raptors, and I know there was no Giannis.
Non-shooters that are now shooters?
Well, people were talking about like, oh, is this real? Is this real? Last night, I think it was last night's game, they showed a picture of the spray chart, the shooting chart.
Yeah.
And it was basically all of the baskets made off of Giannis' assists. I think he had like 15 assists in the game or something. And it was all just threes. So all you're seeing is Giannis doing work in the paint, and he's just kicking it out to these guys, and they're just bombing away. That team looks legit.
And the Milwaukee Bucks under Jason Kidd could never shoot outside shots. Now, all of a sudden they got an offensive-minded coach.
Here's the thing that I'll say, because it's very much like the Raptors And, I guess the blueprint, the modern day blueprint is Golden State, obviously, right? But it's a difference that you're seeing in all these teams that are, you wonder, how does this team now magically become a 3-point shooting team? One, obviously, it's like game plan and mindset, right? Like if the coach frees you up and says, hey, we want to shoot more threes, cool. That means you're more confident. It's in your head. You're practicing it more. Cool. But it's also the difference in your offense in terms of what happens when you don't have the ball, right? What are you doing on the backside? Is there action on the backside, like screens going on to like open guys up? Or are dudes just standing in the corner like this?
Just waiting.
And I think if you're just standing in the corner like this, that's not good, right?
It's never good.
It's not good for ball movement. And I think that's what you're seeing with Milwaukee. That's what you're seeing with the Raptors. It's just constant moving, constant picks everywhere. Everyone's engaged. Everyone's on a string. It's reading and reacting more so than actual play calling. And it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Yes, it is.
But again, I want to say this, and correct me if I'm wrong. Does it start at the defensive end? Raptors being able to turn the ball over? Is that still the key to what this team will be able to do?
Have to. We have to turn the ball over. We have the defenders to do so. We have the inside interior paint guys to grab rebounds and dominate there.
Yeah.
So it starts with defense. The attitude is on defense, and that rolls into our offense, right? We can now fast break on the other end. Now we can penetrate and kick out to our shooters now. Yeah. And now we have a whole bunch of shooters. Everybody can shoot now all of a sudden. Confidence. Shooters on deck.
Let's see. Raptors fans are exciting. I'm just going to read a bunch of comments here. This is all coming from, again, if you go to @ShellAlexander on Twitter, click on the link, you end up in this Periscope feed. A lot of people commenting here. I'm just going to read a bunch of comments. This one was about the jumps. We talked about who made a jump quite like the one OGs made from one year to the next. And this person says Kyle Lowry from 2012-2013 to 2013-2014 Kyle Lowry.
Okay.
Interesting. Another person asks, is Nick Nurse the leading candidate right now for Coach of the Year?
Seems like
too early to talk about that. And how are you going to rate Nick Nurse above Budenholzer or even that guy Steve Kerr that I don't like to mention? But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's too early. Other comments here. JV has never been as efficient as he is now. That's pretty true.
That's
right?
accurate.
And I think, why do you think that is? I'll ask you first because I have a theory on it. Why do you think JV's been more accurate? Or you want to hear what I think first?
Because you want to keep it real?
Yeah, keep it a buck.
Because Kyle Lowry is passing him the ball.
It's just that simple.
It's just that, look, Valanciunas has improved every year. Realistically, he's improved every single year.
Yeah.
But now we're finally just giving him the ball and giving him opportunity. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I can't argue with that point. I think that's a big factor because I feel like we watched it a lot in the Dwayne Casey era where JV would start the game and he'd have like 12 points in like the first quarter and a half of the game.
That's all off of offensive rebounding.
And then like not touch the ball or not play in the fourth quarter. Right? It was just a weird setup. So yes, I think they are passing him the ball more for sure. But also I think the way that the Raptors offense is working in terms of it's a lot of drive and dump downs, spacing. Right? So it's spacing. So he's getting the ball, him and Serge. And Serge has really been a lot better than JV so far. Yes, but just like the little chippy or like floaters, like into the lane, he'll get it 2 or 3 feet out away from the rim. And he's just able to drop those in. High percentage shots as opposed to the normal way he would get the ball when it's the old, you haven't touched the ball in a while. And it's back down, okay, give me the ball in the post, let me post up, and then now back down, like it's
takes too long, it's too slow.
It's inefficient. So it's interesting, but a great point there. JV definitely being more efficient. Let's see. What I loved was, here's another comment from Periscope. What I loved was the defensive intensity late in the game, even when we were up 20 points. That's a thing. That's real to me. That is super real to me because at the end of the day, the Toronto Raptors, that's what they're going to win on, is going to be defense, especially with Kawhi in the lineup. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be awesome to just watch this team defend all the way to, hopefully, what people are hoping is the NBA Finals. Again, for those, as we close things out here, Toronto Raptors, 124-111 win over the Utah Jazz. Raptors improved to 3-0 on this road trip. They close it out Wednesday night in Sacramento. If they go 4-0 on this West Coast road trip, I don't remember many Raptor teams that would be that successful on these West Coast swings.
Right?
And this was a tough trip, so big ups to the Raptors for that, for sure. Foots, let the people know. Where can they find you? What's going on?
You can find me where you can always find me.
Okay.
Instagram at DDSCaps.
Yep.
Follow the family. And if you want to follow me personally, at EastsideO.
Beautiful. And I am Sheldon Alexander. Of course, you can find me as you can find this Wrap It Up podcast after each and every Raptor game on Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. And I just want to give a shout out to all the people that listen to the podcast, because this becomes a podcast in the same stream that you find our Ball on Blast podcast, which is on iTunes, on SoundCloud, on Google Play. All you have to do is search On Blast Podcast, and you'll get this podcast each and every morning that for your morning commute. Hear what happened to the Raptors the night before. Comes in handy, I've been told, especially for these West Coast games late night.
Yes,
Don't
sir.
want to keep you up late, so we got you covered in the morning, right? And lastly, I want to give a special shout out to the YouTube following, the YouTube massive. Shout out to you guys for all the comments. I love the comments. I love hearing where you think I'm wrong, because cool, I am going to be wrong about a lot of stuff. That's
Right?
cool. I want to hear the conversation. That's what this is about. It's just a community to talk to Raptors fans about, again, the biggest season in franchise history, because you have finals expectations.
That's what it is.
This is what it's been so far. The Raptors continue to do so. Again, they improved to 10-1, 124-111. Again, for my man Olamati, a.k.a. Bigfoots, I am Sheldon Alexander.
Peace and love.
And as a wise man once said, I really did used to pray for times like this to rhyme like this. This is the Wrap It Up on Blast Raps post-game show. As always, unpolished and unapologetic. Until next time, see ya.
Peace and love.
On blast.